And now to speak with Charles, please welcome the fabulous Lou Smith, Chair of Innovate Finance. A warm welcome.
Hello. If there is an entrepreneur, a budding innovator, a disruptor in this room, you want to stay right there. Because this is a guy that's actually done it with an incredible team. So my name's Lou Smith. I have chosen the worst day in the world to wear wool. So forgive me. Charles, I am so excited to talk to you. You're a dear friend. And when you talk about supporting this industry, you actually mean supporting growth, measurable growth in this industry. So I'm excited to have a conversation with you about ClearBank, the learnings, and your focus for the future. And thank you for sponsoring us, Charles. This is, as I said, you put action behind those words. So Charles, why ClearBank and what problem was it solving?
So delighted. Just to embarrass Janine quickly and a quick out. It's for all the members, watch out, because it's a bit like sort of the club. And in the pub, occasionally someone will say, actually, you haven't bought a round for a while. So it was ClearBank's time in relation to, we are absolutely privileged to put our hand in our pockets, essentially, and pay our round, essentially, in relation to this. Right, cast your mind back, 2016. All the amazing fintechs in this room. The fintech revolution is coming. There's going to be all these apps. The consumers are going to get all these financial services, and the front end's all going to get revolutionized. And you heard from Wise earlier, but what about the back end? What about the unsexy bit? What about the last mile, so that all the fantastic founders, CEOs in relation to this room can deliver that real-time experience to their front-end consumers? And that was the need, essentially. So ClearBank then came along, and actually we did a load of DD, a big four, essentially on legacy tech. There used to be 16 clearing banks in the UK, it was down to 4. Who was going to provide that cloud-native API, ISO 20022 infrastructure in relation to the back end, so that you got the real time? And that was the need that essentially ClearBank was founded to meet. And we've now got, what, 240 live financial institutions on the platform and all the rest, and taking it global to try and deliver that real-time experience, but also protect the FSCS accounts under embedded banking, and of course, a whole load more cutting-edge financial solutions in payments, settlement, and clearing.
So you've seen some of the incredible organizations that we've got. It always makes me laugh, you're still called startups, which just, it amuses me that we see so much still lack of understanding actually in this area. So Charles, when you look back on that relentless focus on scope, that relentless focus of, you said, unless it gets measured, it doesn't get done. And now looking at where ClearBank is today with those 240 plus institutions, many of them brands that we all know, what were those big pivotal points that you kind of look back and go, yeah, that changed it, or if that hadn't gone so well, or that didn't go so well? What are the things that you go, yeah, those are the things I'd learn?
I've so many, but I've picked out 3, and our whole philosophy of being fintech is agile. Right, fail fast, learn, change, go, keep iterating in relation to it. Quick 3 that I'm sure should apply to everyone in relation to it, of learnings. And they were pivotal points, but at the time we didn't actually know one of them, the first one we didn't know. But they were regulators, investors, and I'd say strategic focus. And I'll add in a quick one at the end. Regulators. So we were doing something that hadn't been done for 250 years, and we managed to get all of the stakeholders in a room in Canary Wharf. 26 different parties. Remember, the payment schemes in those days actually were not under Pay UK, Chaps wasn't in the Bank of England, etc.
And how long are we talking?
This is 2016, under wraps, and we achieved to get the 26 in a room. Actually, a number of them had never actually met each other. So whether it was the CEO of CHAPS or Faster Payments or the Sterling Monetary Framework or the PRA, FCA, I could go on with all the rest. Because remember, in order to become a member of the payment schemes, you need a banking license. We were applying for a banking license. We didn't have one. And there was a pivotal moment in that. It was actually the CEO of CHAPS, where we got them all together. We walked through our plan. We didn't want any regulatory favours. We just wanted execution. And Tim, the CEO of CHAPS, said, Charles, what we need to do is turn this group into a monthly steering committee and help you do it. And that was the moment in relation to actually the coordination that thereafter, all the interconnection between all the rule books, the rule book isn't clear about this. Anyway, in our daily lives, taking the regulators with you on the journey, absolutely critical. They have to play their role. Regulators, number one. Number two, in relation to investors. We've been very fortunate, and we found two expert investors. They were mad about disruption, mad about innovation. All of our projects rely on tech. Anyone knows on a tech project, it can overrun and be late. You need someone that actually has got the stomach and resiliency in relation to the bad times on a tech project. And we went through them too. The really disappointing part, actually, and we moved on a bit, UK, there was no risk appetite. We couldn't find a UK investor. We had to go overseas, and we had entrepreneurs in relation to North America and actually the Czech Republic. Those were our first two investors, in that no one in the UK would actually step up. And that's got to change. Moving on from the investors, so that alignment in relation to backing you through the good and the bad. Strategic focus. I used to sit on panels like this at the start with Anne Bowden and all the other new fintechs in relation to it. She used to wax on about, do you remember, about open finance and open banking and all that great stuff that Starling was doing. And when we came out, actually, Starling started doing payments as well. And I would follow Anne, and Anne would actually then do the talk of, we're doing retail banking, we're doing business banking, we're doing payments, we're doing this, that, and the other. And I used to then follow and go, we're just doing payment settlement and clearing. We're a bank, essentially, no credit risk, we only do infrastructure, blah, 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 blah. And people used to come up to me after the stage and go, we really love your focus, Charles. We know what you're doing. You know who you want to be the best at. God knows what the hell all this lot are actually doing in relation to it. Now, I think they're brilliant, right, in relation to what's then happened of our Starlings and Monzos and Revoluts. All have their role to play. Strategic focus. The other aspect to it in relation to any entrepreneur, and every CEO in this room will know, learning to say no. At the start, every Tom, Dick and Harry has got the best idea that's going to make us a gazillion. Actually being focused into aligning on what we are doing and being very clear about what you're not doing, really, really important. The last one, quick one I'll put in there, is the P word. All of you will be thinking, which is it going to be rude now, whatever it is. Anyway, it was a dirty word at the time. It was profit. Of course, we'd all got our purpose and vision and all these fantastic statements, and we're going to be the best payments clearing bank in the world, and we're going to deliver financial services to consumers and change access and unlock potential, all that great stuff. But the accountant in me was very boring, in that I wanted to get off making losses and the investors writing checks. And we always wanted to make a profit. But remember then, it was all about top-line growth, customer acquisition. Don't worry about profitability. Well, we did, and we never wrote a single piece of business that wasn't profitable and actually value-add in relation to that. And of course, we then went through the pandemic, the whole world in valuations changed, and guess what? Actually, profit was important. So stick to your financial disciplines of what you believe is actually right in terms of that journey. And then of course, we then attracted Apax Digital, who invest in mature business and give you the fuel to go on to take the business global and all of that great stuff.
What I loved when Charles and I were talking about this before is how many people do say that profit openly and publicly. And actually, the thing that I saw in Charles when we were talking about it was that relentless focus on all four things. Regulation, investors, profit, and being so focused on scope. And financial settlement is actually a tricky one because people are, okay, fine. But actually look at that story of bringing those four things consistently to Philip's point today. You've never changed that narrative ever since I've seen you on those panels when it was all getting exciting and we were all using words and acronyms nobody really understood. You were just like, no, we're just this. And look at the story of ClearBank now. My question though on regulation, and I was thinking about, obviously we've had Nicole today, and you're talking about regulation and that two-way, what do we need? When you look back on some of those moments, did you think they were pivotal at the time? Or did you actually think, okay, well, we've nailed that one on to the next? So those four things, did you think they were then?
Well, let me digress slightly in relation to, I'm a sort of oddball in relation to the history of the makeup, and of course I grew up in major banks. I grew up in the merchant banks, I then grew up on the trading floors. And I've seen financial disasters. I also helped write off 10 billion of bad debts that all the corporate bankers got their bonuses for in Ulster Bank in Ireland as part of the RBS. We had our systems failure in Ireland. The NatWest 3, our compliance function found them, and they ended up in handcuffs. I sat in the court of the Bank of England when Barings went down on a Sunday, and Ing then paid £1 after Nick Leeson actually blew up Barings. My answer is going to be, when I started ClearBank, and we did, culture, I've seen horrendous behaviours in relation to investment banking and how you do it. We all know in running a fintech, no hierarchies, no status, no fear, no blame, fail fast, look after the customer. In fact, in that previous four, the customer wasn't mentioned. It's all about the customer, right? Every bank I've worked in has had slogans of customer first, but actually, do they actually deliver it or not? And so something that underpins all of that is actually the culture in the bank in relation to that talent and capability. And over the years, as everything's gone wrong, right, when the Barings failed and the rest, suddenly board directors had to be approved to know about capital markets and market risk, of which most of my board at Hambros didn't have a clue. They were all corporate financiers. As long as the check came from Singapore, from Nick Leeson, the Barings board was happy. All that regulation is good. Unfortunately, what happens is it swings too far to cater for the bad, and the majority always suffered. And guess what we are now? We all recognise from the last financial crisis in relation to all the gearing and over-leverage in relation to all the banks, actually we've got to readjust the risk appetite because we need growth. So let's ride this wave now in relation to keeping the good and essentially the rule of law that Janine talked about and higher standard regulation. But talking to Emma Reynolds and the Chancellor, get rid of the bureaucratic duplication, inefficient, all of that, so that we can actually go faster and we've got the clarity we need.
And that's the balance, isn't it? Is how does regulation enable pace, that relentless focus on customer. One of the things you just touched on there, which I think is really important, one of the things I've seen so much with ClearBank, with the guys who are on the stage and the panel next is, you actually feel that customer focus. You don't have the customer person, so one person worrying about the customer. Everybody does. And when you walk into those teams, you feel that. It's the same as innovation. You don't have the innovation leader, you have everybody worrying about how am I driving innovation to those things that you talked about, profit, pace, etc. So just keeping an eye on the future then, Charles. You've stepped back from the CEO. You're probably busier than ever. I know you are working, as Janine said, to keep regulation, industry, investment, all of those three things. And I'd actually add people. You are a passionate leader who actually tries to bring all of that talent into the UK. You're constantly looking at how you can keep all of those things together for the next generation of entrepreneurs and create that flywheel Philip talked about. But what is next for ClearBank and what is next for you? in terms of where you're looking ahead?
So a quick answer on Clearbank. I think people will know I'm passionate about. So the new payments vision and faster payments and, if you like, all the fiat rails of ACH and FedNow or SEPA and all that stuff and the leapfrogging, right? I'm determined essentially that the UK does not get left behind in relation to Clearbank. Met that need. We talked about in the new payments vision, in fact, in talking to them, well, do we have a blockchain smart contract solution to replace some of what we've got? Brave moves, but actually then leapfrog us again ahead of the rest of the world or getting left behind. And the stablecoin digital asset tokenization answer, as well as using the technology, has got to deliver a solution in relation to that. And Clearbank's role very much of the fiat world of seamlessly moving. So if there was, for example, a Clearbank 100% Bank of England cashback stablecoin that paid interest and actually had an investment grade rating, and that was used in a closed loop blockchain technology under smart to transfer value, that would transform essentially the whole payment, let alone what the US is now doing in the US dollar, and essentially in relation to the euro, where they're ahead, and Singapore, Dubai, all the rest. And I'm not talking about crypto. I'm talking about more efficient digital clearing and settlement in relation to all of those things. Anyway, so that world has got to move on, and Clearbank's be able
important, Charles, because I think people confuse stables.
So do I.
Yeah.
Absolutely right. And I view in Clearbank, I call it the Kodak moment. Those of you that are old enough, in fact, the Chancellor, I'm going to name drop in relation to one of the round tables, I talked about, anyone will know, digital printing. You used to take your film to Boots, whoever it was, 2 weeks later you get 24 photos and 4 of them might be duds. And it used to be so exciting, I remember sort of, you know, of all of that. And overnight, it was all made redundant in relation to digital printing. I'm not having built Clearbank and all of us building on fiat rails, that overnight, all that forward value is gone. We need a bridge between the new world and the old world as you build that transition, and Clearbank do that. Meanwhile, in relation to embedded banking, what we did with Tide, and we've been doing with Revolut, and essentially all of the fantastic counterparties we now have, chip savings bringing interest to consumers, we're now moving that to actually corporate segments. So healthcare, retail, a whole raft of others where we're going to use the bank account to actually transform their business. And a couple of call-outs. When we started, we actually didn't want to just do it faster, cheaper, better. Where's the transformation? Well, we're working with a couple of entrepreneurs in relation to the housing market. So PEXA UK that transformed the Australian. The whole, one of the most stressful experiences in life of buying and selling a house, if you're privileged enough to. We are working with PEXA to transform that whole experience in the UK. So the whole chain will get settled real time. None of this Friday at noon and waiting for your chaps payment and all that's going to go. We're also working with a great entrepreneur in relation to the rental market. So your deposit, all the letting agencies, transform all of that and building a passport of your credit history in relation to being a tenant for housing. That's transformation that I actually look forward to. On the industry level, we've got to deliver the changes we were just talking about, so that FinTech PLC can actually grow, thrive, and win. And yes, I've never been busier. I'm helping a number of entrepreneurs as well on some of their building their businesses and finding capital, whatever. But yes, I've still got the energy in me that I want to keep fighting.
Charles, thank you so much. And I know you will hold people to account to deliver on those promises. My only challenge to you is quarterly enough. So, can I just say a huge thank you to Charles McManus.